Welcome to the State of the Buccaneers podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Pfefferkorn, and this is the biggest and only fan-run podcast of the East Tennessee State Buccaneers. We'll get right back to you after the tune. Welcome back to the State of the Buccaneers podcast. I know it's been a couple months since I've recorded an episode. I've been kind of on hiatus, just kind of focusing on my personal life, my work life, my main job, because I just do this for fun. But it's been a great summer. Off. There's been a lot of Buccaneer news since I last left. But I'm glad to be back here recording another episode for y'all. Did enjoy the show. I knew I had to get one out. College football officially kicked off this weekend with week 0, both FBS and FCS games. We'll kind of get into that later. But it's good to be back. I'm sort of going to turn this into a football preview episode. Since basketball's further out, I will mention some basketball news here at the end. But this is the first of many episodes this fall and spring and even into next summer. I'm hoping to expand this show quite a bit here in the next few weeks, next couple months. I'm going to try to do some interesting stuff, put more focus in. I know it's kind of been up and down. Rocky start first year, and we're getting back to it. I've had encouragement. I've had people asking where the state of the Bucs is for a couple months now. I've just been kind of not focused in, but I've been meaning to get you content. I've been meaning to do some reactions too. I'm hoping to branch out into that. But tonight it's going to be all about you and all about looking at some of the football season and previewing that for all y'all. It's going to be a fun season because we have a new coach, Trey Lamb, who came over from Gardner-Webb. And I think it's going to be a fun season of football. If this first taste of college football is any indication. We have a lot of big news to talk about, actually. Some of it I don't know if I got into back in May and April-ish. I did talk about spring football recap. That was sort of my last episode, I believe, before I went off for a couple months. But yeah, I'm hoping to get some guests lined up this fall, former players. If you know anyone that would like to be on the podcast, reach out. I'm going to do some reaching out myself. There's a few people I've had talk to me about being on the podcast. And I just like to grow this and make it a bigger part of the ETSU community, help be a place, help be an outlet for the fans of the community, fans of the Bucs, to just come and show their colors, show their blue and gold. I know I may be a little bit rusty. I've been out of the game. I've been focusing on that supply chain stuff, which is what I do as my day job. But without further ado, I'm going to get into the show. I'm just going to sort of talk about fall camp before the season. There's been a lot of news, a lot of news. I'm going to start off kind of with the biggest news of fall camp, the QB battle, which was kind of a continuation of what was going on in the spring. It's apparent to me that Jalen King is going to be our starter for the year. Our 100%, we're all in on him. He's going to be our program centerpiece for this fall. And I think that was apparent from the spring practices, from the game. He had wheels. He impressed me quite a bit. I was a bit skeptical. I'm always skeptical with really athletic QBs. I know that's kind of odd coming from me because I am a Colts fan myself. So of course I got to support Anthony Richardson. I think Anthony Richardson is going to be good, but that's a story for another day. But Jalen King, he looked good, and his deep ball looked good too. He's going to work in this air raid offense. He already knows the offense from being in Coach Lamb's system at Gardner Webb. We're just gonna have to see how he progresses throughout the year because he's still a relatively young guy. And with the COVID years and fifth year grant and transfers, he's only been around. I believe this is his redshirt sophomore year, junior. I forget. I think it's his junior. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Jalen King. Let's see what his eligibility is. He is a sophomore, so he has 3 more years of eligibility left for us. But yeah, he's going to be the guy. Game 1 here at App State, I'm going to hope his maturity level's there to guide a big-time FCS program, which I think ETSU is easily one of the bigger FCS program, especially with some of the defections we've had to FBS here recently. Going from Gardner Webb to ETSU, that's quite a jump because Gardner Webb's one of the smaller FCS schools, I believe, out in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. That's evidenced by Trey Lamb coming here and Kraft going to Western. But yeah, some other news on the QB front. What's his name? The guy, St. Francis transfer, QB to ETSU. It's Cole Doyle. He left the program. I think he retired from football. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he retired from football. He's still going to school at ETSU, going to finish up his degree. I don't know if he's still around the program or not. But he just decided he probably wasn't going to play this year with King getting most of the reps in the spring game and probably in spring and early in fall camp. He decided to leave the team. Yeah, best of luck to him. He looked good in spring practice, so if he chooses to go do his eligibility elsewhere, I won't blame him. But at least you came in, competed. Good luck, best of luck to you, guy. One of the walk-ons, I believe, left as well. Let me look at ETSU's roster. Football. John Hunt. Let's see. Jonathan Hunt. He left. Jonathan Hunt left. There was just news out today that Jonathan Hunt left the program. He was from... Yeah, he was one of the walk-ons. Not sure when he came in. He was from South Carolina. He left as well. Probably was not going to get playing time. Probably was told to look elsewhere. He is no longer with the program and plans to enter the transfer portal in December. So we have our guys at QB. We're finalized there. Jalen King. Got Geno English. He's probably going to be our backup, I'd say. Steven Johnson. Well, this leads into another point here in a minute. You got him. You got Reese Fountain, the touted freshman from Georgia. And another transfer, we had Steven Johnson, who transferred from Charlotte. He played a little bit. He went 3 of 6 for 67 yards and a touchdown and a pick for Charlotte. He's from the area. He went to Tennessee High in Bristol. So we'll see how he develops. So he may see the field. Just depends on health of our QBs. Praying that we stay healthier than we did last year with that insanity where we had two walk-ons getting most of the playing time for a majority of the year. But yeah, that leads us into, we also had 4 additions, 4 transfers that were announced late in the summer. Damon Early, who transferred from Limestone on the defensive line. He had some pretty good stats there, so he definitely have some size to help us there. We had another Gardner-Webb transfer, Brandon Wilson, defensive line. He played for Gardner-Webb as well. Had be a good addition. 2 defensive line additions there. We have a 5'9" wide receiver, Cameron Laborn from Buffalo. He was at Garden City Community College last year. He has some decent stats. Maybe he can put it all together if he's a fast guy. But excited for all those. So we have those additions to our roster. And I think we have a pretty good roster. We'll see how we are defensively. I didn't focus as much on defense in the spring game. It's kind of hard too because they're not pushing, trying to get people hurt in the spring. They're just trying to evaluate the skill of the players and if they're ready for the speed of college football. Yeah, so we'll see. I think the offense is going to be good. And we're just going to go down the line of stuff I have to talk about. One of our players, we have multiple players that are highly touted. We have a stats FCS All-American by several sources. William McRaney, who transferred from Gardner-Webb. In 39 games for the Bulldogs, he had 329 tackles, 29.5 tackles for loss. Okay, maybe our defense is going to be better than I thought. I know I'd seen this, so maybe I was speaking out of tongue there. But yeah, he's going to be an All-American. I'm excited to see him on the field. All those Gardner-Webb guys. Just this is just a continuation of what I said back in the spring. All these guys are going to be impact, I think, because Trey Lamb basically flipped the team offensively for this year, other than maybe at the running back position. But yeah, for in the Bucs were picked. I believe they were picked 6th in the preseason SoCon standings. About middle of the pack, about where I expected. Now, our roster, it's a big unknown at the moment. So for the media and coaches poll, we're not going to be picked very high, especially when you have programs like Chattanooga and Furman that bring back a lot of people. Those are going to be our 2 toughest games in conference play. And there's other teams that have lost quite a bit. Mercer lost her coach, and you got the service academies that you are just having consistent play just because of how they are set up. But yeah, 3 Bucs earn all SoCon first team honors. Chris Hope, who is one of the defensive backs that stayed. That's another big story. We had him and Sheldon Arnold. I was hoping Sheldon Arnold would stay for his last year, but unfortunately he got the lures of NIL and went to Central Florida. Best of luck to him. He was a baller for us, but can't. I think he may have transferred before. I may have mentioned it back in the spring, but yeah, at least we still have Chris Hope. He just picked up an NIL deal himself from Weigel's, the convenience stores in Tennessee. Those of you not from Tennessee probably aren't familiar with those. I think they have them in multiple southern states, but if you came to ETSU out of the area and you aren't familiar with those stores, they've sponsored UT players in the past, and I think Twitter was involved heavily in getting this deal done. Hopefully, they reach out to other ETSU players. Yeah, so that's all that. The other players added was there's Nate Brackett. He was our punter. He was one of the top punters. Hopefully, he can flip field position for us this fall. And we also have Luke Smith on the offensive line. He played at center for us. It's good to have the most important positions on the offensive line are center and left tackle. Center, he dictates how the offensive line is going to, be positioned, how fast they should move off the line. So it's good to have a good center. So hopefully our offensive line, with having a strong anchor like that, can run the new offense effectively. But yeah, I think that's all the first team honors. We have several from preseason, also kind of honors from Phil Steele. We got Luke Smith, William McRaney, Chris Hope, Nate Brackett, Bryson Irby on the third team. He'll be a good running back in our system. Justin Franklin, he was one of the transfers from Gardner-Webb. He was a wide receiver, so he'll be effective. Jonathan Burns was a tight end for Gardner-Webb. And Jalen George, he was a defensive line. He was a key member. He was on our team last year, had 21 tackles, 3.5 TFLs, 2.5 sacks. So we have quite a few preseason honors. I think we have a good base to build around for the year. And so yeah, that was the preseason honors. I think we were picked 6th. Let me look at ETSU SOCOM preseason polls. All conference team. Yeah, ETSU is 6th. Luke Smith was on first team, so was Chris Hope and Nate Brackett. So we didn't have any second team guys. Hopefully that changes. But yeah, going into fall camp, we have had a few scrimmages. First scrimmage, 5 quarterbacks took snap and went for 236 yards. Defense looked good. QBs looked good. Bryson Irby looked good. Yeah, so I think we're going to be ready speed-wise for App State. Maybe not, but we're going to get into that preview for a little bit here in a little bit. So yeah, that was the second one. Second scrimmage, offense was 320. We had 328 total yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 2 through the air. 6 different QBs went. Jalen King, Geno English. I think that's going to be our 1 and 2 for the year. Although I could be wrong. Defense looked good. Yeah, there's 2 scrimmages. But let's look up football. Yeah. Just coming out of fall camp, I think this team is ready for the SoCon schedule. Um, I don't see any indication that it's going to be um, the same we saw under George Quarles in the previous 2 years. I think the attitude around the program is positive. I think the vibes are there. Um, yeah. And our first game up, I'm going to get right into the schedule preview. Our first game up is a big one. We're going on the road to Boone, North Carolina, to take on the App State Mountaineers. It's going to be a tough one. There's no two ifs or buts about it. It's highly unlikely we leave there with a win, just based on what the Mountaineers bring back. Statistically, I went down there and watched them play a game last year because at the time I don't think ETSU had a home game that weekend, and um, I wasn't going to stay home and watch Purdue get throttled by 96 by Michigan. But App State, they look good. Their QB is good, Joey Aguilar. He is a baller. I think he's an NFL guy, 6'3", 220. Our defense is going to have a tough time shutting him down. In the run game, too, App State's just one of those programs, man. They have multiple national championships for a reason. They've upset Michigan. They upset Texas A&M. They're always going to be a threat. It's going to be, and it's a tough road environment. That stadium is intimidating. Their fan base might be one of the rowdiest fan bases I've seen for a smaller school. I mean, ETSU's got a pretty rowdy fan base too, but not like that. They are the mountain people. I will say that. But my score prediction, I'm gonna go for that game. I'm actually gonna drive down there for this weekend. I might do some content at the game at halftime, just sort of film my reactions, throw it up and do a slide or edit it and put it together and put it on the channel. Maybe put some shorts up, start putting some shorts up for stuff like that. But my prediction is probably going to be like 45-17. I would say, yeah, I think we score 17 points. I don't know how App State's defense is, but I think we put up, with this new offense, I think we put up some points, especially in garbage time. App State is going to be running the ball. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game, but we're going to learn a lot about ourselves. Thankfully, the week after that, we have, I think I gave my prediction back in the spring for what our projected win total is going to be. But next week we have UVA Wise, and yeah. Let's see. UVA Wise. I think that's a win. We're playing a D2 team just to get tuned up for the rest of the schedule, and it don't stop from there. On the 14th, we have North Dakota State. That is by far our biggest game of the year. Well, one of our two biggest games of the year. Yeah, that's going to be a tough game too, even at home. North Dakota State's the eminent powerhouse. They are the Bama of FCS, and it's going to be a fun game. It will be a fun atmosphere, fun game. I think ETSU has a chance. I think there is a high chance. I don't think this is the NDSU of old. They still have Cam Miller, but last year they struggled mightily down the stretch. They lost to a rancid South Dakota team. They still did decent in the playoffs, but their coach left. So we have a first-year head coach. That's what helps us the most out of anything. And it's not Tyler Roll, who we interviewed in the past. But yeah, that's it's going to be a tough game. I think, and then we close out our non-conference schedule with Elon on the road. So that's a tough game too, a road game. Hopefully it's easier road game than App State. Then we get into the conference schedule, which I'm not going to get too much into that today. We're going to have more episodes in the future. I was just going to preview the App State game. Let me look at App State themselves. I'm going to do a little bit more digging into their team. Defensively, their top players last year graduated. Let's see. Let's look at their team stats from 2023. They allowed. Let's look at their defense. They don't have their defense on here. They don't have defensive stats for whatever reason. Their schedule for 2023, they went 8-9-5 last year. Came up just short of being in the Sun Belt Championship. And they blew out Marshall when I saw them, so it's going to be a tough game. Tough road environment for a first-year head coach, first-year starter at a new program. We'll see how we go there, but I'm positive. I'm just going down there to have some fun, enjoy the new team, enjoy a game at App State, because you can't, even if you're an opposing fan base, you can't have a rough time at App State because it's just such a vibrant atmosphere. It's one of those places you've got to go, especially in late fall when the colors are leaves are starting to change. It's this powerful atmosphere. That's how I'd describe our stadium too. It's a fun place to go watch a football game. But yeah, I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping, praying in some shape or form we can just upset App State. But my realistic side says, nah, probably not going to happen for at least right now. But yeah, that's our week 1 game. And I think I've talked about all I can with football without sitting down and just breaking down film, which I can do in a future episodes. I think that's all I have for the App State preview. I think we'll do good in the SoCon too. But that's just kind of my quick fall preview, bringing you some news from the football team, and recapping everything ETSU football. Before I transition to my basketball talk, my summer basketball news, I would like to ask a trivia question, sort of break up the episode. I sort of do this just to throw in some fun trivia, help expand your knowledge of the game. It's related to the last time ETSU played App State. We last played them in 2019. My question for y'all is, who was the starter at QB for that game? Was it A, Trey Mitchell, B, Chance Thrasher, C, Cameron Lewis, or D, Tyler Riddell? I'll give you 5 seconds. I'll give you 10 seconds. We'll count them down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ba-ba-ba-ba. The starter for that game was B, Chance Thrasher. Chance Thrasher, that might be a name some of y'all don't know. He transferred. He was Randy Sanders. Yeah, he was a guy Randy Sanders brought in his second year from Coastal Carolina to be our starter. He started that first game, and he had a pretty serious injury. He was all right. He didn't play very long, and Trey Mitchell took over for a lot of that game, and Cameron Lewis did some too. That was not a fun game. It was a 42-7 thrashing, pun intended. Chance Thrasher didn't see the field much. Oddly enough, all four of those QBs, I did this on purpose, all four of those QBs were on that 2019 team, sort of before we took off for the 2021 season. 2020, we probably should have done good too, but that was ruined by COVID. Trey Mitchell ended up going to Carson Newman, and Cameron Lewis, fun fact, is still on the team. He came back to the team. He now plays tight end. So you will see him on the field this fall, which is bonkers. That was 5 years ago now, 6 years ago. I'm showing my age. I'm starting to get up there in age because I'm 2 years out myself. And Tyler Riddell is now at Gardner-Webb. So that's an interesting, fun-filled question of interconnected web of stuff. I'd like to quickly transition into talking about basketball. I covered a lot of this news I think we haven't had a huge amount. The roster has been finalized, and we've made some roster news. Let's look at the coaches. I know we'll start with coaches first off. We bring back some of the same staff. Several of the assistant coaches left. I do know, let's see who all left from last year. I know Isaiah Tisdale left. Joe Hughley left for different opportunities. I don't know if he's still in coaching or not. I think they just weren't adjusted to the college game. I think Isaiah Tisdale is going to a community college to coach, I believe. Let's look at But anyway, we basketball coaches. Let's see. We in their place, we hired Marcus Belcher. He previously served as an assistant under Ray Harper at Jacksonville State the last 2 seasons. And I believe they've done a pretty good job. We actually played them last year. I think we beat them. He has a lot of ties to Missouri Valley Conference. He was actually he previously served as assistant coach at Illinois State. Spent 8 seasons at Indiana State, Southern Illinois, which is where he graduated from. He actually played under. This is a fun fact for me since I'm a Purdue fan in addition to ETSU fan. He actually was under Matt Painter when Matt Painter was an assistant there. And our announcement, he gave props to him. Said Belcher would fit in well here at ETSU. He also had 2 seasons at Evansville. He has some involvement with NBA talent, several NBA talent. Antonio Reeves, DJ Horn, Tariq Key, and Jake LaRavia, who was at Wake Forest with Forbes. That was a big pickup. He's under Bruce Weber's tree as well. That was the head coach at Southern Illinois when he played there. He was a member of the team that went to the Sweet 16 from the Missouri Valley Conference. So he has a winning pedigree, I will say that. Our next other assistant coach was Corey Dixon. I'm not sure where he came from. I'm gonna go look at the news. Corey Dixon. Um, he was a New Orleans guy. He had connection to Chris Arkenberg. Um, he was on staff with the New Orleans Pelicans, I believe. No, G League, the New Orleans Pelicans G League team. So he will be one of our assistant coaches as well. Let's see. Yeah. Roster. Coaches. Let's see if I can get to this. I can't get to this page. Brian Jones, Joe Hughley. I believe Rob Peterson left as well. Kept Brian Jones and Chris Arkenberg. Josh Boehner. I believe he's still on the. Yeah, Josh Boehner is still here. Rob Peterson left. Buzz Peterson's son. But yeah, that was all the coaching news. Also, the roster was finalized as well in that time. Our roster looks like we got Brandon Crawford from South Carolina. He's a freshman. He was one of those players we talked about. Of course, we bring back Jaden Seymour, Gabe Sisk, Jackson Jones, Dave Merriweather, DJ Hughes, Alan Struthers, Timmy Faison. I believe he was on our team last year as a walk-on. Kumari Peterson, Makai Johnson, Karan Boyd. We also added Roosevelt Wheeler. He transferred from VCU in Louisville previously to here. He's going to play that center position, forward center position, as well as Brandon Crawford. Davion Bradford from Wake Forest. He was previously at Wake Forest, Kansas State, and New Mexico State. He'll be a big help in the middle as well. Kurt Lewis. I came over from Missouri. He also played JUCO with Kumari Peterson, so there'll be some chemistry there. And biggest addition, I'd say, is John Buggs III, who transferred from North Texas. He had several high majors after him, Memphis, Texas A&M, among others. I believe Memphis, there's some other schools interested in, but he'll be a big addition. He's an elite 3-point shooter, elite playmaker. Our backcourt and front court are stacked. I think this team constructed, I think we are the conference favorite with the other losses around the conference. But yeah, that's a big addition. Just every addition is big. I just kind of wanted to briefly go over those roster changes. Schedule upcoming. We do have several schedule announcements. ETSU is in a scheduling agreement with the Atlantic Sun Conference, which ETSU used to be a part of. We get two games out of that. A home game against Eastern Kentucky on November the 8th, and we go to Jacksonville on the let's look at the schedule. Jacksonville on the 14th of December. So far, I know our schedule looks like we go back make a return trip to Davidson on the 13th of November. USC Upstate just released their schedule. We play them at home on the 22nd. Let's look at the schedule for. Yeah, we actually have a mid-season tournament, MTE. We're hosting USC Upstate and Queens. I am not quite sure who we are playing. Our other opponent will be. Yeah, we're going to play Queens. Not sure on the date on that one. We get a return trip from Elon to Johnson City. We're going to play at James Madison and at Wichita State. We're also going to play at University of Missouri, Kansas City. Two games that aren't going to happen. App State and Eastern Carolina will not happen. There won't be any return trips for those games. But yeah. So that's what our schedule looks like so far. When the full schedule gets announced, we'll talk about it on here. But that's the two big scheduling notes. Oh yeah, also another thing, the Big South Conference is going to hold their postseason tournament or conference tournament in Johnson City in Freedom Hall. So as a part of that, we're going to be big. I might have to turn out to it. Just welcome them here because it's what it sounds like. Freedom Hall is one of the bigger arenas, more well-known mid-conference arenas, and I'm proud of that. By the way, proud of our fan base for helping getting that renovated and helping sustain the life there. Yeah, those were the three people that left. That's about it on the basketball side. We're more in football season, so that's all I have. I'll get into some season predictions for that later on. But yeah, that's all I have for basketball. I'm going to quickly discuss some of the football games around the country for week 1 and SoCon games. Week 0 this weekend, we had some excellent games around FBS and FCS. Of course, we had the Ireland game. Georgia Tech got the upset on Florida State. I'm happy to see that. As somebody who was born in Georgia, always got to love a top 10 upset and see the expansion of the game around the world. Let's go look at other scores of interest. We had a top FCS power at play against New Mexico. They were 14-point favorites at New Mexico, which I bet against that because I was like, home team, and also New Mexico's new head coach is Bronco Mendenhall, who revitalized Virginia football. So I couldn't do that. Montana State still pulled off the win, had a comeback in that game. But yeah, and SMU snuck by Nevada. Had another FCS team have a wild scheduling visit to Hawaii that took place way past my bedtime. Hawaii beat Delaware State 35-14. In FCS, exclusively FCS games, we had Tarleton State over McNeese, which was one of the wilder games of the day. Tarleton blew a 26-7 lead, and McNeese State missed a kick to tie the game as time was expiring. And they lost that game because the starting QB for Tarleton went down. Same Same thing for Southeast Missouri State and North Alabama, which was the official FCS kickoff. Uh, SEMO murdered North Alabama in the second half. At first half, North Alabama was ahead, 15-9, I believe. 15-7. Yeah, 15-7. Now it was 15-7. Never mind. But yeah, SEMO's QB went down too, and then their backup came in. Did admirably. Sorry, I can't pronounce that word. I've been struggling a little bit with some of my pronunciations tonight. But yeah, big. That was a big game. Florida A&M beats Norfolk State 24-23. Another close game. Florida A&M was top 25 as well in the polls, in addition to Montana State and Tarleton State. So there was 3 big FCS powers or FCS programs at play this weekend. But I think every ETSU fan, I think we're all going to be watching. As far as FCS games, we're going to be watching that North Dakota State versus Colorado game next weekend or on Thursday, because that is going to be wild. If North Dakota State beats Colorado and ETSU plays North Dakota State, that game is going to be bonkers. The crowd is going to be wild. But our eyes will be peeled on that. I have a sneaking suspicion North Dakota State might get Colorado. I can't say that quiet part out loud right now. But yeah, there's some of the bigger games. I don't really want to get into some of the bigger games as well. I'm just kind of spitballing here. I'm going to talk about Southern Conference games. We got on Thursday, we have Western against NC State. I think NC State's got that with Grayson McCall. VMI and William & Mary, that might be a sneaky game. That'll be a close game. Mercer and Presbyterian. Mercer with a new head coach. We'll see how that goes. Wofford versus Gardner-Webb. Tyler Riddell playing for Gardner-Webb. Well, I don't know if he's their starter or not. He probably should be. The big one for all the SoCon teams, Chattanooga versus Tennessee. If somehow Chattanooga, this is one of the few games I may be rooting for Chat, because it'd be funny to just see them get upset. Tennessee get upset week 1. But yeah, and then we play App State, of course. Sanford and West Georgia. West Georgia being new to D1 in their transition right now. Sanford's probably got that. Citadel over Charleston Southern. I'd say Citadel would have that, but I don't know the quality of their program right now. And another big one, Furman versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss has probably got that one in the bag, even though Furman's been really good, really great as a program, and is coming off a great year last year, where they went to, I believe, Furman football. They went all the way to the quarterfinals against Montana last year. But yeah, that's all the week 1 SoCon games. But yeah, I've enjoyed talking to y'all. That's all my discussion on football. Some of the minor sports I'll get into in further episodes, but I just wanted to record and sort of get back in the groove of things with this episode. And officially start season 2 of State of the Bucks. Is going to be listed as that on Spotify and whatever program. But it's just going to be called episode 14, I believe, on YouTube. Yeah, I've enjoyed talking about some ETSU sports for this for 45 minutes. That's all I've got. I just wanted to plug Give a buck donation. Continue to donate to that and NIL fund for ETSU, and support ETSU athletics and help them grow. Subscribe to me on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and follow me on Twitter. Twitter is where you're going to get the best updates. I'm kind of hesitant on Instagram. If someone could just run my Instagram for me, I would do that because I just don't get on there enough. But I hope to expand the audience, expand my growth. And it's good to be back recording State of the Buccaneers. I hope you share with all your friends, and hopefully I get some guests here soon. But that's all I've got for you tonight. So Godspeed and go Bucks. You all have a good night. Thank you.